This is The Clash, where the real world clashes with a true Christian worldview. Join former professional wrestler Chris Whaley, known as the Masked Saint, who is an author, pastor, and teacher that brings his wrestling skills into the squared circle and tackles real-life issues. Along with Jeff Dixon, best-selling author, internationally known teacher, leader, and pastor who is not afraid to tackle the tough issues of the world we live in. Together they form a tag team of wisdom in The Clash.
Hi, welcome to The Clash, where we take a Christian worldview, allow it to clash into the culture around us, and when we're done, hopefully we will entertain, educate, encourage, and maybe give you just a few minutes of just joy. If nothing else, I think today is going to be one of those days. I'm Jeff Dixon. I'm joined by the one, the only saint himself, Chris Whaley. Chris, how you doing?
Man, I'm doing a lot better than I was. I don't have that patch under my eye anymore.
Yeah, you're not beat up anymore.
So, it's all healed up, and so I'm doing much better. And
Good.
Just excited about today, man.
I am too.
Got one of my homies on today. He's gonna. I think it's really gonna be a good one.
I think so too.
Yeah.
I mean, and the episode is called the Cuban Assassin episode.
Right.
Because we are going to meet the Cuban Assassin. Right?
Cuban Assassin. Okay. Right. Let's get right to it.
Okay.
You know, professional wrestling has produced some of the most colorful characters and toughest competitors in sports history. And Jeff, our guest today, is a man who built a reputation across professional wrestling territories around the world as one of the most dangerous, one of the most unpredictable competitors to ever step inside of the squared circle. He was known to fans everywhere as the Cuban Assassin. He really just carved out a legendary career battling some of the biggest stars in professional wrestling with, I might add, with a style that was intense, it was physical, and sometimes downright ruthless. And I know that personally because I've been in the ring with him. But he became a name that fans loved to watch and opponents feared to face. For years, he traveled the wrestling circuit, entertaining crowds, living the demanding life of a professional wrestler, becoming one of the most recognized villains in the business. And today we're going to talk with him about his career in the ring, about stories behind the matches, the world of professional wrestling behind the curtain, and what life looks like now after years in one of the toughest professions in sports. So, Jeff, please help me welcome to The Clash wrestling veteran Fidel Sierra.
All right. Welcome. We're glad you're here.
Thank you very much. It's an honor to be on here. And Chris, you covered it all. You know, I've had I started full-time in 1978 in this business. Before that, I did a couple of years of what they called outlaw wrestling, which would be compared to what they call independent wrestling these days. And then I got under the tutelage of Hiro Matsuda. And, you know, I was lucky that Hiro taught me a lot, sent me to Japan. I got to team with Andre the Giant against Inoki and Sakaguchi in Tokyo, and you know, and wrestled Andre by myself in Oregon, and just so many great. You know, I love this business, and I'm 70 years old, and I just today signed a contract to wrestle somebody in September.
Oh, wow.
All right, I love that.
That's
Well,
great.
hey, let's get started. Let me just ask you. You've already kind of tipped the hat on this, that you've wrestled all over the world. When you look back, Fidel, what moment made you realize, hey, I finally made it in this business?
You know, I would have to say I was wrestling for Jim Crockett Promotions, and Jay Youngblood was there at the time, teaming with Steamboat. God bless Jay Youngblood. great, great wrestler. And he left to Portland, Oregon. And then he said, "Hey, do you want to come to Portland, Oregon? Then, you would be like the third villain, bad guy, heel, whatever you want to call me, on the roster, and be part of Playboy Buddy Rose's army. God bless, he's gone too. So many of my brothers are gone." And I said, "Yeah," because I was learning a lot in Mid Atlantic, and wrestling great talent. I remember Nick Bockwinkel one time said, how many times have you wrestled Ricky Steamboat on TV? This is in Mid Atlantic, for the Crockett's. And I said, oh, probably 14, 15 times. Well, did you see how the people, and Nick Bockwinkel was riding with me, he was telling me this out, and then that's, the knowledge you learn with some other veterans. But he said, did you notice that every time you covered Steamboat, the people were going, 1, 2, ah? Because even though you put them over all those times, they still thought you had them beat.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah.
that was unique. But getting back to the Jay Youngblood got me there to Oregon, and I feuded with him, and I became part of Playboy Buddy Rose's army, uh, and I had a great career in Portland. To this day, I got to wrestle all over the world, but to this day, Oregon has always been my favorite for promoter. God bless Don Owens, was such a great promoter, a great payoff man, and I loved wrestling in Portland, Oregon.
Jeff, go ahead.
Yeah, Fidel, let's go back. Let's go back to really the beginning of your wrestling career. How did you get into professional wrestling, and what was that first match like?
I got into professional wrestling. I used to. Okay, you're gonna laugh. I never really trained in a professional wrestling ring. I was taking like judo lessons from a man who lived behind me, but I couldn't afford it. But he was training some other people, so he would do it would be like a hip toss, and I did that perfect and all that. So then when I went to that outlaw wrestling, I sort of like right off the bat, like my first match. It only, it was a little fire station in Withlacoochee, Florida. Held a couple hundred people, 150 people. And I thought it was great. I was in the main event. Here's like first or second match. I'm in the main event. It's standing room only. And I was wrestling a guy named, Donnie York Sr.
The
And
Fighting Fire Chief?
that's Danny Roberts. Yeah, he was there.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and I used to, that the Donnie York Senior or whatever. Anyway, he used to throw you, and you'd there would be a part where you would hit the wall and slide down because there was no room. And I was so crazy back then. I loved flying through the ropes, hitting that wall, just sliding straight down. And people would all go, "Oh!"
Oh, that's
And
awesome.
but from there, I was working out with the late Rocky Johnson, and the grappler Len Denton was working out at that time there at the Body Shop Gym in Tampa, and I became very good friends with Rocky, and I would go at that time. The Rock, was a little kid, maybe 6 years old, 7 at the most. And I'd go to Rocky's house, and Ada, Johnson, she was such a sweet lady too. Um, they would take Dewey's toys away because he'd do something wrong. And as soon as they walked out of the room, they always used to call me out on this. I'd give him back his toys. But but the main deal is Rocky Johnson, Ada, and the late King Curtis, Iakea, called Gary Hart for Fritz's territory in Dallas because Gary Hart was the booker. And I started in 1978 right there against Del Valentine, which was really Del Roberts, with Johnny Valentine in the corner. And Johnny Valentine, he had been in that plane crash, so he was in crutches and all that. Yeah. And I can remember because Johnny used to love, how Johnny would chop you, man. He would chop you so hard. So he had Del Roberts doing that. Del Valentine, who was one of the Freebirds also. And he would chop me with his little tiny hands, and he would sting so bad, and I'd give it right back. And I'd look at Johnny Valentine's face, and he loved it. He got a kick out of that. And I was like, man, if you only knew his little hands are stinging way more than I know my big hands are stinging. But that's I was lucky enough that they'd made that call, and from then on, I would ride with the referee, Bronco Lubitsch. Great. God, what a great man.
Yeah, I loved him.
They had a lot of good talent there at the time, like Al Madril and Gino Hernandez and all the Von Erichs. And so Bronco Lubitsch one time, that's what he called me. He said, my friend is the booker in Mid-Atlantic, George Scott. He said, you would be, you're going to be first to fourth match, but you ain't going to, that's about as far as you're going to go, but you're going to make good money. You're going to make anywhere from $800 to $1,200 a week. I was making like $300 to $400 in Dallas. I said, when do I start?
Let's go.
Yeah, so then he got me the starting date, and then I gave my proper 2-week notice. Did it and went there, and from then on, I honestly went from Carolina to, let's say, Oregon, and then to Calgary, and then I just got. I think it's a lot of it was. I give the credit to a lot of people like Ricky Steamboat and the late Jay Youngblood, and the people. I had good people to wrestle against.
Yeah,
and that made a lot of, and that meant a lot, and I learned a lot that way,
Yeah. Well, who would you say was the toughest opponent that you ever stepped in the ring with, and why?
There's a few. I can't. There's not just one. I mean, I wrestled Harley Race on TV matches and had to go 12 minutes with them. And it felt like I went 2 hours with him because he was that tough, and and he would say, "Come on, kid, fight back," Race would talk, and but Hardy was a very gentleman and a scholar to me. I've seen other people that he didn't like, or they just rubbed him the wrong way, and things weren't as easy for them. Yeah. But I was lucky. We rode together. We had matches together. We rode together in Puerto Rico a lot, and it was a lot of And then I have to say, Haku, one of the toughest guys.
Oh yeah.
Haku, and and even Ric Flair. I had my hour draws with Ric Flair. I even won a non-title match in Oregon against Ric Flair, but going an hour to Ric Flair was like, wow.
Wow, that's incredible. Yeah, go ahead.
Now I'm going fishing here on this question because I am asking you something I'm not exactly sure about. But I remember back in the days of championship wrestling from Florida. Okay, I think I'm remembering this right. I remember my first memory of watching you wrestle, because I was a big wrestling fan as a kid and growing up, and when I got into my college years, I vaguely remember that you went an hour with Dory Funk Jr. on Championship Wrestling from Florida, and you were the only match that day. And I
Yeah,
didn't
that was
know.
yeah. I could tell you that. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, no. I was going to say, and I didn't know who you were prior to that, and I kept thinking, this is going to be the only match. These guys are great. These guys are fantastic. And I remember watching it with my dad as we're sitting there eating pizza on a Saturday night here in Orlando, Florida, and thought, this is fantastic. That's when I remembered who you were. Yeah.
I could tell you that match. Dory Funk Jr. was one of the best too. Taught me a lot. That's if you talk about all the good guys in this business that try to help you out. There's so many that really do, and then there was the ones that didn't really care. But Dory Funk Jr. in that match, it was I remember like it was yesterday. It was 2 out of 3 falls elimination, or no elimination match. And that was the only match. That was the only time Championship Wrestling for Florida had one match. I think I was teaming with Eddie Gilbert's father, Tommy Gilbert, and I don't remember who the other person against Buzz Sawyer, Dory Funk Jr., and somebody else. And it ended up me and Dory after 15 minutes or 20 at the most. Ended up me and Dory. And we did the whole rest of the time. That was the only match they had on TV that night.
Yeah. It was fantastic. I remember it. I mean, I really do. I was like, wow, this is incredible.
Yeah.
They got me good, though, on this part because right after the match, they had me do an interview. So now I just went an hour with Dory Funk Jr., who blew me up to heck and back. And I was like doing the interview, and I was like, yep, it's good to be here. Anybody, I'm ready for anybody, and this and that. But, and I was like, I was blown up. I mean, because Dory would put that headlock on you. Dory Funk Jr. was very, not slick, but the way he would do this. You ever had wrestled Dory Funk Jr., he knew he was going to go a good 20, 30 minutes with you. He'd get a headlock on you. He'd take you over, but he'd have you try to pin, reverse to pin. And he'd have that headlock, but he'd have a lot of weight on you.
Yeah.
And then you were getting shorter and shorter in breath.
Yeah.
And I'll never forget that.
It's because of Dory that you and I worked against each other.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah, I was doing a benefit up in Citrus County, and Dory and Marty were members of the church that I pastored. And when I was doing that, I was supposed to work against somebody else, and then Dory said, no. You're going to work against a friend of mine, Fidel Sierra. You're going to work against him. And I was like, and I knew who you were, and I thought, that's awesome, to be able to work against you. And but that was because of Dory. Okay, let me ask you this. I think you'll enjoy this question. What's the craziest or funniest thing that ever happened to you in the ring that fans never saw coming or fans never even knew about, but something funny that happened in the ring?
There's a lot of funny things I can't even think about. There's one funny thing I could tell you. We were wrestling, me, Playboy Buddy Rose, and Rip Oliver against Andre the Giant. And it was either Joe Lightfoot or Jay Youngblood. Buddy had Andre in a headlock, and Andre was down, and Andre reversed it. And because we're on a Christian, I'm not going to. He slipped his thumb where the sun don't shine, and Buddy's eyes lit up like you turned on light bulbs. And that's a true story. And I always, God, I just inducted Buddy Rose into the Hall of Fame in Portland 2 weeks ago at the Expo. And his wife was there and all that, but I didn't tell that because I couldn't tell that with his wife, and it just. and I don't know if I went over the Christian line here.
We're good.
Oh no, this is great.
But yeah, that was like, I said, oh my gosh, you said like funny stuff, or what did you say?
Yeah, crazy funny stuff.
I'll tell you one time I was wrestling in Medford, Oregon, and I always wore a mask, and at that time in Oregon, always, and all of a sudden I look and the police are around the whole ring, and I don't remember who I'm wrestling. I'm thinking, did you do something, or why is the police all around the ring? So now the match is over, or I roll out, the police surround me, and they said, we need you to take your mask off. And, back in the day, so right away I said, well, it's going to be a problem here. And there was like, I don't know, I want to say 6 to 8 of them. I said, there's going to be a problem here because I will not take my mask off in front of all these people. That's how I make a living. And if I take my mask off, then why would they come and see me ever again? So they settled for it. We went in the dressing room. It was the craziest thing because they were looking for somebody that was wanted for murder in Alabama. And I'm in Oregon. I took the mask off and I said, oh, there's no way it could be you. Well, they should have knew that. He said, you're way too tall and all this. Well, you knew how tall I was when I was in the ring. Well, I'm not going to argue with the police. So that was a scary, wild thing that happened. It was like, wow.
That's awesome, man. That's awesome.
That's great.
Jeff, did you ever in your wildest imagination think that one day we would have this great TV show called The Clash, and you could actually buy T-shirts and stuff that had The Clash on it? Did you ever think that possible?
Yeah, when I was 3 years old, I had a vision.
You did?
That was going to happen one day. No, I'm just kidding. I never thought about that. So.
Hey, it's just awesome, man. I mean, of course, the tagline, don't tap out.
Yeah.
On the hat.
Look at that.
Yeah. And then on the back of the hat, it's got The Clash. And I don't know, what you got?
Well, I'm just sitting around thinking about, how could you think about The Clash 24 hours a day and at the same time hydrate?
Oh, wow.
This cup right there, look at there.
How awesome is that?
That's a mini tumbler right there.
Wow.
But you could get a coffee cup.
You know what? I need to get one of those to pour the coffee into it so it keeps it.
You also could get a mug though. If you're a mug guy, you can get a mug.
Yeah.
You get a big taller tumbler that you can walk around. And so when you're walking around drinking stuff with our logo on it, people say, "What is The Clash?" And they can tell you all about the TV show.
So you need to look at that little QR code down at the bottom of your screen, and you just get your camera, your phone out. You put it on camera, and you look at that, and a little thing will come up, and you touch that, takes you right to the store. It's so easy, even I can do it.
There you go.
Well, fans don't often realize how physical wrestling is. So what do you think would surprise people the most about the life of a professional wrestler?
I think, the fans, that's why I hate the word fake. People are saying, wrestling's fake, and I will correct them in a heartbeat. I say, no. Wrestling is hardcore entertainment.
Yeah.
And he goes, and they'll go, well, why do you say that? And I say, because we might know who's going to win or who's going to lose or whatever, but when we get slammed, it's a plywood with a little bit of styrofoam. And the ring apron, and that's it. A little bit of spring to the ring, and when we get thrown onto the floor, we're lucky. Nowadays, they're lucky they got mats all around. Back in our day, Chris, we didn't have mats. We just landed on the wooden floor, on our feet. Tried to break the fall, but I say, you know, you don't realize how much that jars your body. So
Right.
anything that hurts like that is not fake.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know.
How do you fake a body slam?
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's what I mean. That's what they
Yeah.
don't understand. Yeah, well, yeah, but the ring balances and all that. Yeah, but it's still jarring your whole body.
Yeah. Well, I've got a few scars. I don't have as many as you do, but I've got a few scars that would prove otherwise that wrestling is fake.
Fidel, I mean, again, you wrestled in a lot of different territories, and throughout the career, I mean, you were a heel, and then you also were a babyface hero. Which was more fun for you, being the heel or being the babyface?
It depends where it was at. Like in
Okay.
Oregon, I loved it. I mean, I worked so many years as a heel in Oregon that when I turned babyface, wow, it got over big time because here's this guy they watched for so many years as a bad guy, and now all of a sudden he was a good guy.
Yeah.
And but there in Oregon, I loved it. And other places like here, they tried to make me a baby face because I was Cuban, Spanish, Latin. Uh, it was very hard for me because I think I was a natural heel. So for me to go out and try, you know, I'd try, you know, but I felt like I was always a much way better heel than I was a baby face.
Yeah.
And they even tried it in Puerto Rico, but in Puerto Rico, I was like, wow, you know, along with my manager, Fantasy, we were like the hottest things there for a long time. I'm talking about where they threw spark plugs, rocks at you, everything in a book.
Yeah. Yeah.
And, you know, and the same thing in Mexico, I was a heel under a mask, and I lost my mask, and I got paid well for that. But it was the first time they let a woman walk, like be a manager, come to the ring with the wrestler.
Okay.
And the commission made her go sit down by the ring and not told her she couldn't stand up. And she couldn't stand up until the match was over. But that drew one of the biggest crowds in Arena Mexico for CMLL. It drew whatever 18,000, whatever Arena Mexico holds.
Wow.
And that record wasn't broken for like 2 to 3 years.
Hey, welcome back. That was fun.
It is fun. That's crazy. Yeah.
You know, it's so tempting, because I don't want it to be about me because we're interviewing somebody, but it's so tempting. He's telling those stories, and he's telling one that I know, and I want to jump in there and help him out on it.
You want to tag in?
Yeah, I want to tag in, and he didn't stick the hand out for me to tag in.
But also, how cool is it though to hear about folks that he's wrestled with, that you've wrestled against and with, and the old friends that you guys have had along the way? That's awesome.
Well, compared to him, I'm a wannabe, man. I mean, this guy was awesome. He's awesome. But man, I tell you, it's great to reminisce, great to hear stories, and I hope the people at home enjoy the stories from these guys as much as we do.
Oh yeah.
I mean, I just love it. I just love it. What do you love the most about it?
Well, I think what I just said, when he starts mentioning these names of people that I've watched through the years, and really, you know, as time has gone by, you know, you hear the name, you go, oh, I almost forgot about him, or to hear him imitate some of the voices and some of the people that, you know, from a distance, you never know what they might really be like. And I think interviewing some of these folks, like Fidel, brings these folks to life. And so to me, that's exciting, and it's a lot of fun. And it really kind of peels the layer back just a little bit on this amazing thing called pro wrestling. So, you know, thanks for hooking us up with this interview. This is great.
Well, hey, it's been fun. Hope you enjoyed it. Hope you go out. Hope you have a great, great week, and don't tap out.